Hello and welcome to this set. In this set we're going to talk about Udims. So when I started, Udims weren't a thing, and it took me a little bit of a while to get it straight in my head, but I thought I would do a video on Udims, how they work, why we might want to use them, and how to then utilise them in other programs. I'm going to use Substance Painter because that's the one I know. So Udims, why do I want to Udim? Well, you can see here I've got a little terrible crate model I've created, and I've UV'd it. If I just press A to select everything, and you can see it's over here and it's lovely. It's all fitting in space, it's all pointing in a direction, and I'm very happy with it. Except to say, I'm not getting much resolution out of this for the individual pieces. So I want my pieces to be bigger. I want them to create them, to take up the maximum space in here. And all of this space up here is lost in our map, whether it be 1K, 2K, 4K map, it doesn't matter. That's wasted. It's wasted space. And, we could do better than that because, we want to, that it's just not good enough. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. So under the old school way of doing things, I would simply create two materials. So I would select the bits I want on one material, say these pieces, which are faces, and I would pack them. Oops, where's pack gone? I know it's here somewhere. And they're taking up more space in my UV, but the problem is now it's overlapping other things, and I would either have to make those smaller or I would have to create two materials. I don't want to make them smaller because the idea of this is to get more texture resolution, so I would create a new material. And that's where the issue comes, because when I have more than one material, I have to set up more than one material. That might sound obvious, but when you've got 50 models to set up and they've all got 2 or 3 materials on them, it becomes a real grind. So you want to minimize that, and Udims is a way of doing that. So what a Udim allows us to do is essentially assign more than one texture image to a material. So we can have one material and then multiple images. You can have not an infinite amount, but you can have several image maps all feeding into one material, and that one material only needs setting up once, which is perfect. That's what we want. We want to save time, because not that we're lazy, it's just efficiency is a very key thing. So what we'll do in the next little section is I'll go through and show you how to set up a Udim a Udim material within Blender. So I'll talk to you then. Okay, so to set up Udims on a shader, we need to add an image into the system. So I'll just go along to the image view. So let's just change this one over here to be, whoops, not that one, not edit mode, it's that one there, to be image editor. And from our list up here we'll create a new one, and I'm going to make it 2048 by 2048, and we'll call it Udim setup. There we go. Now the important thing here is we need to tell it that this is going to be Udim. Now a Udim is not a single image, it's an array, a collection of images. So to do that we click the tiled button, which might confuse you, because when I first looked at it I thought, tiled? Do I need to tell it I'm going to tile this object, this texture? So yeah, perhaps a different terminology might have been less confusing to me anyway. So we've given it a name. Let's give it a colour because black is just confusing, and click OK. So now I have an image. So this is currently just one image in our array, in our collection, but we can tell it that we want more. So if I press my N key to get my menu up and then go to the image tab, down here you'll see UV tiles, or UDIM tiles rather, and the first one is 1001. That's this space. That's the very first space in the UV. So we can add to this to add another tile which will go into the next position with 1002. And we could use, if we're doing more, I'm just going to use 2 for demo purposes. I've got 1, we've got a label, and we've got the size of the image, alpha, black, etc, etc, and I'll click OK, and you'll now see that I've got 2 images. So these are separate images. They are physically separate within a collection of images. So now we can use this to UV. We can move our pieces around in here because our shader knows that it's going to expect two images, and one will be at 1001 and one will be at 1002. Okay, so that's the basic setup. If I now go to the shading room, where's that? It's here. I can connect this up to my material. So my current material is called material. I'll just call it create matte so that I know what it is. And then I'm going to add an image map in here. So let's press Shift A, S, and I'll just type in image to find it quickly. There we go. I'll pop that in and connect that up, and then we'll select our image. So we'll select Udim setup, and you should see that currently everything is blue because it's all in that 0, 1 space, all in that 1001 image. And what we'll do in the next video is we'll just move some things around and see what happens. So I'll talk to you then. Okay, so I'm going to nip back into the UV room now. So we'll just pop over there, and then I'm going to select my faces that I want on a different UDIM tile. There we go, I think that's all of them. And then I'm just simply going to move them over. So over here, whoops, how did I get onto that kind of selection mode? I'm going to press G to move them and just move them over. So you need to be careful to make sure they're in bounds. So if they go over the edge on one side, you may want to just move them again. So I'll press G and just try very hard to get those within the line. Press G, move it over a little bit more. Oh, I think that's perhaps good. Yep, it's not on there. If you don't want to be too precise about it and you're not worried about a few pixels, you could use S and just scale it down ever so slightly. Okay, so now I want to sort out the other tiles. So let's go, can we do a select and invert? No, that would be too easy because I should have done it over here. So let me select these again, and then we'll do an invert. So select, invert, and now I've got them here. And these ones are pretty easy because I'm not going to move them, I'm just going to pack them again. So it's UV and pack, and now I've got the maximum texture space I can for those. There we are. Oops, better select everything over this side tonight. I'll get used to that eventually. Okay, so now our model is set up to have, the maximum texture size available for the polygons that I've assigned to each UDIM. We do have a kind of an issue here in texel density. One of them is likely to be of a slightly different texel density to the other, So it might be that you'd want 3 for this, but as I say, I'm demonstrating, so I want to keep it relatively simple. Okay, so that's setting it up. The model is done. We've set up the texture, we've set up the shader for Udims, and in the next one what we'll do is export this out to another application, in this case Substance Painter. We'll create a texture and then we'll bring it back in and set it up. So I will talk to you then. Okay, so I'm just going to switch over my viewport shading to textured, and then you can see what's happening here. So anything on Udim 1001 is coloured in the blue colour, and anything on 2 is coloured in the black colour. So they are successfully looking in different places for the textures. Okay, so let's just export this then. So let's flip to object mode and file, export. Let's do an FBX. I've got one that I've tested on earlier called crate.fbx, and now that's just gone off and done its business. So in Substance, I'm going to create a new scene or a new project. I've got PBR metallic roughness, and I'll go to select and pick my crate. Now normally all I do here is set the the texture size, make sure my normal map's right, and then off I go. But you'll notice I have a new box ticked here, which is UV tile workflow. So UV tile workflow is Udims, and you need to have this on for it to work. There are 2 modes you can use. There's a newer one, which is preserve the UV tile layout per material and enable painting across tiles, or the old way, which is convert UV tiles into individual texture sets. There's good and bad to each. I'm going to use the preserve UV tile. If you use the other version, it will create a material for each of your Udim tiles, so you can change properties across each and so on and so forth. So let's click OK on there, and when we come up you'll see I've got one material, which is our crate mat, and underneath it we have 2 UV tiles. And if I press F to focus in here and then zoom out a little bit, you'll see I've got both my UV tiles here shown on the screen, and that's perfect. So now I can work within this layer to build my texture. So we'll just do a relatively simple one. If I had a fill, let it think about it, and I've got some wood over here somewhere. Just going to pick this wood rough, drag that in. Oops, let's get rid of that one. There we go. I can see that this wood is pointing the wrong way for my UV, because got these the grain is going the wrong way there. Looks like it would break. So on my layer, I'll go down to rotation on the UV and click 90, and now it looks right. And we'll add a layer above that and give it some dirt. So right click, add bitmap, add black mask. I'll add a generator under that, and we'll pick dirt in general, and that's going to put some dirt in various places. Oh, I see I haven't baked my maps, so let's just quickly do that. Texture set settings, I need to be on the map for that. So select the material, and then on the maps area we'll hit bake. So where we go, 2048, turn off ID, update my curvature. There we go. Let's do my kind of defaultish settings before I change them later, if I need to change them. Let's bake those out. So this is going to bake my maps, and it'll bake both Udim tiles, and we should be good. There we go, back to it. So now I've got all my maps I need for that generator to work properly, and it's looking better. But I'll go back and I'll just adjust this generator to make it a bit more subtle. A little bit more subtle anyway. There we go. So for this one, I think I'd just probably make it a darker colour. Let's turn off everything but colour and rough. So I want the colour to come a bit darker, and I want the roughness to be much higher. There we go. Okay, one last layer. We'll add some edgeware to this. So I'll add a black mask. I'll use the metal edgeware just to speed me up a bit. There we go. You can see that's got some nice edgeware on it. And what should we do? Let's increase our wear level. So I want more on the edges, but I don't want quite so much grunge. So I'm going to take that down a bit. There we go. Take the grunge scale down too, so it doesn't look repeaty. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to put the original wood on it, so it looks no different. But what I will do is change the colour in that. I'll pale it up, so it looks like maybe that was the original wood and it's kind of worn away. Let's increase the roughness on it. There we go. Okay, so not the best texture we've ever done, but it will do for demonstration purposes. So now we need to export these, of course. So I'll go to File, Export Textures. I'll go and find my export folder. It's not in Projects, is it? It's in Training. There it is. Udims. And I'll select that folder. PBR Metallic Roughness. PNG, I'll leave it at PNG. Based on texture dilation infinite. No, I'm going to turn infinite off. I don't like infinite. Plus diffusion. And I want base, rough, metallic, normal, height. Don't want emissive because we're not using it. So let's export this out. I suspect metallic will have nothing on it, but we'll see. Okay, so now we've got our model painted and we've got our maps exported, and what we need to do is be able to set them up in Blender, of course. So we'll do that in the next section and I'll talk to you then. Okay, so let's get this set up, but I just want to make a note of something just in case it happens to you and you think you're going crazy. I happen to have saved this, closed it and reopened it between videos, and since I've done that, my black faces on these polygons have gone. Now I don't think it's an issue because I'm not going to use this Udim image we set up, but you know, it makes me a little bit wary. So just be aware that that happens, but it doesn't actually make a difference. Because I'm going to delete this now. There we go. Right, so for this I need the Node Wrangler plugin to be turned on. So just go to your edit and preferences, type in Wrangler. Whoops, if I can type in Wrangler without making a mess of it. And just make sure you've got a little tick beside that Node Wrangler box there, because it makes the next bit a little bit less painful. Okay, so with that done, we select our principled shader and press Control Shift and T, and you'll get a dialog box up which Node Wrangler is going to use, and we're going to select all of our maps here. Now I'm not going to select all of them because the next bit involves hooking up lots of different maps, and I don't think some of these maps are used. Oh well, let's do everything except the normal and the height. So once you've done that, because of the naming in your textures, because it says this is base color and it's on 1001, it should know that that's where it wants to go, that's where it wants to be. The same, 002, it should know where it is on the UV map and where it should be. And where it says metallic and roughness, it should know which channels to put those in. So put base colour in albedo, metallic and metalness, and roughness in roughness, which is terrific, which means I don't have to do it manually, which is all right by me. So I'm going to create this, so principal texture set, and Node Wrangler will then set them up for us. I say set them up partially. So there's a little bit more to do yet. And it's why I haven't done all of them, because it will just add loads of time to the video. So as you can see, this isn't right. It's putting everything on the same place, and that's because each of these images is set to a single image, and we need to set them to Udim tiles. So we'll just do that, and you'll see immediately that the middle bit starts to go strange, because not only do we need to do this, we need to actually tell each of these images that there are 2 tiles on them. So without doing this, it won't show up at all. So next then, I'm just going to flip over to the image editor, and then I'll select each of my images. So there are only actually 3 to do, because I've only picked 3 channels, so it's not that many, but you know, with additional channels it's going to take a little bit longer. So it's just like we did on the when we set the template up. Select the image in the N menu. Under the image tab, we need to add a new set, so I'm just going to click plus and 1 and OK. And once that's done, it adds a new space, but it needs to reload the texture to get the new mapping. So just by this the file here, just press this little refresh button and it will bring it back in again. And sadly we need to do that for all of them, and is one reason why I didn't bring every single one in. So it's add a tile, however many tiles you happen to be using, hit the refresh button, and job done. And one last one then. Not that one, I've done that one, foolish man. So there we go, add a tile, refresh the image, and job done. And I hope you saw as I was doing that every time I refreshed the image, the you know, the preview changed, you know, another aspect of it changed. So let's have a look at the shade editor. So yes, everything's plugged into everything. If it doesn't plug in, it might be that the Node Wrangler or Blender doesn't recognize the name. The naming convention is quite important. You know, it has to say something fairly standard like albedo or base color, metalness or metallic, roughness or rough, or something. You have to be able to give it a clue. It's not going to figure it out for itself, and it's all done from the name. And of course it's very helpful in Substance in that when you go to export, you can actually define those. So if I export textures here and go to the matte settings, you'll see that these are set to be base color, metallic, height, emissive, etc, etc. So everything kinds of fit in with Substance, but if you're using a different template, if you're using something else, you might just want to make sure that that works. And of course the Udim ID needs to be on the end of the texture name. Okay, so that's it. I hope that was useful, and yes, I will talk to you in another set. Let me just go to the render room. Actually, let's not there, let's go to the modeling room and just have a look at this in all of its really dull glory. Yeah, looks alright as far as it goes. Yes. Excuse me. So that's Udims, how to set them up in Blender initially, exporting the object painting it in substance and then bringing it back again. And I hope that was useful. I'm repeating myself now. Old age, you see. So I will talk to you in another set.